Welcome, everybody, to Secret Sauce, the show where we unpack business tips, life hacks, and advice from industry leaders. I'm Karly.iacono. Today, I am joined by Kyle Inserra, a restaurant real estate expert at Zelnik. Kyle, I'm so happy you can join us today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your background and expertise on what's going on with restaurants these days. Fascinating subject. So thanks for joining. How are you today?
I'm great, Karly. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So let's start with a bit of background about your experience in the industry and what you're doing today.
Yeah. So I was in the restaurant business for a long time. I actually, shortly after 9/11, I was working at Prudential Securities in Midtown Manhattan. And I was like, sort of like the events of the last couple of years, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I was not having a good time. And I sort of, my grandfather owned a restaurant. I'd always worked in restaurants growing up, and I just had this like I felt like this is something I want to pursue. And at the time, it was like Bourdain was huge. A lot of these other guys were coming out. It was like cool to be working in restaurants. So, despite my parents, resistance initially, going from a well-paying job to like an hourly position. I went to culinary school and, eventually graduated from culinary school, which was after I went to college. So I was a little bit older, and I kicked around the city, worked in Manhattan, worked over in Jersey, worked in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Mexico, and I really loved it. And I eventually came back here to New York with a buddy of mine and opened up a restaurant here in Westchester County. We had a couple locations, opened up another restaurant not too long ago, but now I am 100% restaurant free. And strictly work, with restaurants and helping them plan their strategic growth across the country. So I think the background in that really helps because I know what it's like to be approached by brokers and have to deal with that, those conversations while you're also trying to run a business. So I think that experience has served me well.
I had no idea you went to culinary school. I only know you in the real estate capacity. So you took this boots on the ground all the way. That's impressive. And open your own restaurants. Wow. Incredible experience being on both sides of it.
Yeah, I have to, it's one of those things where it's like a restaurant folks, I'm sure anybody who's tried to approach them can be a little bit tough to get to, right? Like particularly the smaller guys, we're still very hands-on in the business. So I feel like I can relate to them. So it's once I kind of like show them my club card and my alumni badge, I can get in there and I think it helps with that degree of relatability for sure.
Before we go into the real estate element, what was the hardest thing about running a restaurant in your experience, and also your favorite thing?
The hardest thing is the demand on your time. When you're committing to growing something, I knew how to cook, right? I didn't know how to run a restaurant, and that's two distinctly different things. And you kind of learn on the fly. There's really no way to train for it. So the demands on your time are real, and learning how to balance that is tricky. But I think it kind of ties into it that it's a real passion. So, passion for people, passion for food, passion for the experience. And my favorite part was really just, when the restaurant is buzzing on a Saturday night and people are just enjoying the food, they're enjoying the experience, they're enjoying one another, and just leaving that night with like a satisfied feeling. I think it must play to that need for like immediate gratification kind of. It's just that ability to do that for people and provide that experience was very rewarding for me.
Can imagine. So you took all of that great experience and transitioned it to a successful career in real estate, which is great. I love to see that.
Yeah.
Weird. Who does that? No, good job. So coming back to the real estate side of the equation, how do you feel restaurant operators are looking at real estate right now? Are they in expansion mode? Are they pulling back because of the looming recession? What's the overall sentiment?
Yeah, that's the big question. I think, everyone's concerned about the economy. They're worried about what could be, that could be coming down the pipe, or, they've been dealing with a lot of inflationary stuff on the food cost side and paper goods and things of that nature. I think restaurant folks are resilient. I think anything looks better than where they were 2020, right? So I think they're seeing this as another, hey, what else do we have to deal with kind of thing? Because they are a remarkably resilient crowd. I think I said early on in the pandemic, and I still believe it to this day, that you deal with like having half your staff not show up sometimes. You're really ready to roll. Almost anything seems surmountable. So I think that restaurants, from a real estate perspective, the ones that the bigger groups are cautiously optimistic, probably peeling back a little bit. But I still, the last couple of weeks, I've seen an increase in activity. In New York, Corey and I like to say, if you can vent it, you can rent it. Those spaces are lasting days on the market, right? There's still activity there. And I think from a national perspective, some of those markets are still ripping hot. The Charlottes, the Dallas, the Austins of the world are very hot for restaurants. And I think that will continue.
Are you seeing rents increase in these core markets because there's competition for space? And how are the tenants looking at that? Are they willing to pay the list rent price, or there bidding wars on spaces? Like how are rents factoring in?
I haven't seen too many bidding wars. I have seen restaurants, sort of pull back on what they consider to be a little bit the higher end of their price range and start to look at, I wouldn't say secondary markets, but secondary more, I guess, on a national scale. But, maybe peel back on a New York and look at, like a Boston, maybe, even though some of those neighborhoods are comparable. But, I think what's most top of mind for them is can they afford it? I think that lesson still stings in their mind. They really learned in 2020 that this is a business and they have to make money, and the rent situation is real, and hopefully they have good relationships with their landlord. And I think aside from the money piece, we can quickly back a napkin figure that out. I think what's now been positioned as more important than it used to be location, right? That was what restaurants needed. I genuinely think that it's landlord lease location now, because depending on your some of these guys, they could have shifted. They're not doing as much dine in, they're doing more takeout. Can they have a smaller footprint? Can they being maybe not on Main, pay a little less rent and still do the same business? But yeah, the ones that are sticking with their traditional dine in models, I think the pre-pandemic rents are back, and they're tackling them as they can, from a financial standpoint.
What are you seeing in terms of rent increases? Are we back to annual increases every 5 years? How has that changed in the last few years?
Landlords, from my experience, always push for annual increases, and we always push back, seemingly for multiple rounds, back and forth for every 5 years. I think it's a better way to run a business for a restaurant. You have enough variable costs to try to manage, from your payment processor, to down the line, that it would be helpful if one of your largest expenses remains the same during your most difficult years. Even if you're an established restaurant in a new location, I think any operator will tell you that in a new market, that's your first restaurant. So I always push for the 2 to 5. We always push for the increased in 5 years. But there's always pushback. I wouldn't say the dynamic has necessarily changed, but it definitely seems we have to push harder for it.
And how about term? Are tenants looking for shorter terms than they were pre-pandemic? The same? Have you seen any shift in the lease terms that the restaurant tenants are seeking?
I haven't seen too much of a shift in that. Restaurants it's the same dynamic, right? Like, do they want to sink a bunch of money into this space for anything less than 10 or 15 years? Answers historically no. I think it's obviously still no. I think what they're doing is, pushing more on the landlord for TI and things of that nature. But I wouldn't say in terms of term anything has necessarily changed from what I've seen.
Okay. Any other material changes to the lease structures that you think are worth highlighting?
Not, no. I think, the one thing that they really want to make sure is buttoned up is their assignment piece. In case things do go sideways again, how can they, maybe get out of this situation? I know they're looking for potential kick out clause and things like that. That's just never going to happen, most likely. But I think overall the sentiment would be they're more realistic in understanding the relationship and understanding where the landlord's coming from, which, prior to the pandemic, I would say a lot of folks were a little bit more seeing it as like an adversarial relationship. They weren't so, it wasn't such a relationship, so to speak. But again, I go back to that relationship piece is super important. And I think you can have open and frank dialogue with these landlords, whether they're national landlords or local mom and pop landlord. And so long as you understand them and they understand you, it should be something that you're both comfortable with. And I think that's been a major piece for any restaurant out there right now.
How is the labor component playing into expansion decisions? I know that was all the talk for the last 2 years. Seems like maybe it's starting to ease, or is it not yet? How big of a factor in opening new locations is that right now?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think it's, restaurants, one of the best things that came out of this to me is the good ones had the opportunity to look in the mirror and say, okay, how can we be better? How can we make this a place where people actually want to work? It used to be you could slap a sign up in the window or online and Indeed or Craigslist and say waiters needed, dishwasher needed. That's not enough anymore, right? Like these people who are, line cooks, well, maybe they have a child and they have to be home. They have to be home for nighttime on Saturday nights because they can't find a babysitter. How accommodating are you to those types of requests? Do you provide insurance? Do they have paid vacation? Do you offer any sort of reimbursement for transportation? And I think these are musts. I think it's the ones that have figured out ways to provide these benefits to restaurants are not going to have a problem finding people. It's the ones that are still taking this attitude like having the hourly job as a privilege are going to struggle forever and probably go out of business. So it was an opportunity to make yourself better. And I think the good ones realized that and did it. And some of the other ones are still struggling. And I just think the way it would be for any other business.
Such a refreshing perspective to say that there is a solution and it's actually better for everyone. You just value this employee relationship a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean,
that's good news.
Yeah. I think, it's funny. I was thinking the other day about a piece of content where, I still find myself like in the kitchen, standing up, eating lunch. I'm like, well, what am I doing? I have multiple tables in this house, it's like ingrained in me. And I was like, but that's not okay, right? Like if you work for somebody, you should be given time to sit down and things like that. So yeah, it should be an easy fix. It should be. When money's involved, I think they could figure it out.
Right. Is there a specific restaurant concept that you are most excited about right now? Anything you think is really neat that you are either involved with or not? Any concept that you really like? I know it's kind of a curveball. So
I love that question. I can't say any one concept, but I have seen more and more Southeast Asian, like Vietnamese type food being more prevalent. I don't know if it's probably not everywhere in the country, but even from an ingredients perspective, I see now that Trader Joe's is selling Korean chili flakes, which is just, to me, that was such a chefy item like 5 years ago. I'm very much a fan of that type of food, especially from like almost like a Japanese izakaya perspective. It's not like you're sitting down and it's this big formal presentation, but it's like shareable plates, super flavorful, spice. It has the desserts are always super impressive and a little bit different than what you've seen. I think they're very interesting type of cuisine, and Ethiopian. I think they sound a little bit like what, not exactly on your weekly radar, but I think they're going to be more and more prevalent, more worldly type cuisines, even from like a QSR standpoint. And I'm excited about seeing things like that.
I love variety. So that'll be fun to watch that roll out. Make sure you keep me posted of any new tenants we need to have on our radar. It's exciting. So before we wrap up today, I would love to hear any sort of life hack, piece of advice, or personal insights you'd like to share with our listeners.
Okay. It's probably not that exciting. There's a couple that I think of, but I'm a huge early morning person. There's so much going on from, the 9 to 5 time and I used to think like, why do I need this time? Why do I need like 5 to 7:30 in the morning to do really just work out and kind of do nothing? But I was listening to, I think it was Jeff Bezos and a couple other guys talk on this panel, and they were calling it like putz around time in the morning, just kind of like to get your engine going. But for me, I find out if I don't have that time, I feel like I'm putting out fires all day long. Instead of being on the offensive, I'm on the defensive. And that is, to me, the worst. You're kind of just scrambling. And that's a big thing. And then one other, can I add a little bonus one?
Sure.
Are some automations that are available to us from a technology perspective to do some of the like monotonous things that we don't want to do, has been a huge help for me. I'm not talking robots, but just like organizational things and communication that kind of just takes that off your plate and frees up a bunch of time. So I would say those two things have been my little life hacks.
Any specific automation, app, site, program you use that we might be able to steal from you?
Totally. Yeah. I use a platform called Zapier, and
Okay.
it connects all of your little like Outlook to Asana or Outlook to Monday.com or what have you. I use it a lot for the podcast in terms of follow-ups and reminding people to like create the tiles and write the show notes and things of that nature. And it's all automated. So don't have to worry about it. Don't have to jump on a call with anybody. Don't have to send an email. And yeah, Zapier, Zapier.
Never heard of it. It's on our
Check it
list
out.
now to check out.
Yeah, check it out.
Thank you. So before we conclude, tell us about your podcast. Shameless plug time. Go.
Oh yeah. All right, cool. I can do that. Yeah. So it's it's the National Restaurant Owners Podcast. I really doubled down on it during the pandemic, and I was fortunate enough to get some really successful restaurant operators on there to tell their story of what was happening and where they saw the industry going. And frankly, it's my main source of lead gen. I get to have these restaurant conversations with folks every day and talk about what their plans are, and have even done business with a handful of them. So I love it. I love talking shop with anyone. It's sort of a new age to, they always said in this business to, have a lot of conversations. You never know where your deal is going to come from. Well, people love to talk about themselves. So if you invite them onto your show, like me, they will talk about themselves, and they'll, it's just a way to create that digital connection. And these cold calls turn into warm calls, and, warm calls ultimately turn into business. So it's fun. It's a lot of work, I'm sure, as you know, but it's been a main part of my business, and I love to do it.
Anyone who wants to talk restaurants, reach out to Kyle or check out the Restaurant Owners Podcast. I've seen a few episodes, are quite entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below. Kyle, this is great. I really enjoyed hearing about your background and an update on the restaurant industry. It sounds like it's very positive, which is always good given today's economic situation, to hear some positive news. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today and sharing all of your insights. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And to everyone listening, that was Secret Sauce. We can't wait to see you again very soon. Have a great day.